Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Terrace Talk. Norwich City are back on the road again very quickly after their loss to Derby County. They face Swansea City in South Wales this weekend. And although it's a game between two teams probably towards the wrong end of the Championship table, it should be an interesting one with plenty to look out for. I'm delighted to be joined by Luke from Swans Cast to discuss this weekend's game. Luke, first of all, how are you, and what have Swansea's start to the season looked like so far?
Yeah, I'm good, thanks, and thanks for having me on the channel. To be honest, it started okay. A little bit lacking in some areas, but we were getting decent results, and I think after a 5-6 sample period, probably was a decent start. But I think really since the international break, since the return, it's not been amazing. The game before was a heavy defeat to Leicester, which as a one-off you can write off, them being a parachute payment team that's just come down, and some of the goals in that game that they scored were just individual brilliance that you can't do anything about. But then after the international break, we had Southampton, another one, but utterly dire performance. Don't really know how we got a point. But then to back that up with the defeat to QPR last night, it just seems to have knocked all of any positive momentum or energy out of a lot of the fan base. Quite a lot of the fan base already had reservations around some of the underlying issues that were there.
Yeah.
But I think then the other half, which did include myself and the guys on my podcast, you could see also then the positives and the fact that we picked up a decent points haul, some decent results, and you could see that as work in progress with a lot of transition and new signings in the summer. But if anything, the underlying issues I just mentioned are going the wrong direction regarding, you can't see any improvement for those things. And that really is a big concern. And I think it's quite similar trends and themes to what you might be experiencing regarding creativity and chance creation, and actually being able to pinpoint what the goal is when it comes to those things in the game plan. So, yeah, that's where we are, which I've just chatted to Connor, and it sounds very similar in a lot of aspects. I'll be totally honest with you.
Yeah, I think when you look at those worries creating chances and things like that, it's maybe not. It doesn't bode particularly well for the entertainment provided by this weekend's game. But yeah, certainly it feels like a lot for both teams to work on. I wanted to ask you about Alan Sheehan, because obviously he's he's just taken over as the sort of permanent head coach. Was obviously a caretaker before. So has it been kind of continuity from what it was last season, or obviously I know there are a lot of new players, so it might have changed. Which has it been more of?
No, to be honest, it's probably just got a bit duller, which
Yeah.
It's really difficult to put your finger on, because when he first came in after Luke Williams, he was doing okay last season, and it just fell apart after he got linked to a job role at West Brom that didn't come to anything. And I can't explain and tell you how drastic the drop of form was after those rumours came out. Some people put it down to it can't have been a coincidence, because we were 4 points off the playoffs at Christmas time. We were on back-to-back wins against QPR and Luton, which at home, which were quite comfortable, looked really good. Looked like we just started building some momentum, which is why he then got linked to this job, got asked about it in the press, gave a sort of how not to handle a press conference 101 several times over the next week. And then we went to Portsmouth on New Year's Day and got absolutely battered. I think it was 4-0, which was uncharacteristic of anything we've had that season so far, because bear in mind, that's when you get into the position where you're starting to play everyone a second time. When we'd gone through all of the clubs once, we had not lost a single game by more than one goal all season up to that point, and then we got drubbed. He went on a run then of 9 defeats in 11 games or something stupid. Might be slightly different numbers there, but you get the gist.
Yeah.
And it just became untenable. I think he was untenable personally from when he didn't deal very well with the questions about leaving, and then came out to try and play them down. And I just think he lost the dressing room, and that just displayed on the pitch. So Alan Sheehan came in as caretaker. The first thing he did was made us hard to beat. And then we started getting the result, like the one goal swing results where you get the wins. And they looked like they were really playing well for him, and he was getting some really good results. And I think we ended the season as one of the top 4 teams in form. And if we had displayed that form through the period of January and half of February that Luke Williams had got sacked, we probably would have actually ended up making the playoffs, which is crazy, because it looked like such a bad season on the whole. No consistency and all of that. So we just thought he was going to build on that, and he had a lot of investment in the summer, and probably the most investment we've seen since we got relegated to from the Premier League. We've got slightly new ownership model now with a lot of celebrity interest, if you like. So a lot of excitement in the back of house areas regarding those things. And I was backed up with quite an exciting transfer window, which is something we haven't had for so long. So it brought such a buzz. But there was always this core group of fans in that background that were concerned with this appointment being, I think the club, they had to give it to him after his form as caretaker boss. Some of the fans just weren't convinced it was the correct decision. And I feel like we're in that position now 10 games into the league where it was like, I don't know if it was a winnable situation because they had to give him the job on that form. But maybe there is an argument to say that it wasn't the right decision long term. Maybe he's just going through a sticky patch that he can jump out of. But as I said, a lot of the issue I have is this solid, rigid, making us hard to beat thing that he built us on. That's not even there anymore the last couple of games. Like if you look at our XG against, it's gone not very good. Like the Southampton game, they should have scored 4. QPR should have scored 3 last night. Right, I know, like a little bit in those areas. So the scores look a bit better on paper. But then when it comes to going forward and attacking, and he describes himself as an attacking manager, it's just dire. It's just so bad. Like they're not creating chances. He doesn't play with an attacking midfielder, which I think is, for me, part of the problem. One of the big problems here is a flat 3 in a 4-3-3 system in midfield. And I just think it's just not working there. We're trying to go out wide all the time. And I just think it's so easy to defend against that. We're making our wingers look like they're underperforming because they're just not able to do what they're good at when the opposition knows that's the only area we're going to attack from. So they're probably having to work harder. You know, they've not got any space. They haven't got any opportunities to run into space or anything like that. And it just doesn't look like he's trying to change anything. And I think that's what's kind of blown the stuff in out of a lot of fans, is that you can deal with it at the start of the season when maybe you get off to a start and this is one of your concerns, but you just want to see some form of progress, or like what you're working towards, how you're trying to fix it, what we're trying to do to make that better. And I can't tell you what any of that is. And I think that's the issue that we're in at the moment.
Yeah, you mentioned that kind of recruitment in the summer and a lot of investment. I think a lot of people looked at that, including myself, to be honest, and kind of thought, based on Swansea's performances at the back end of last season, some of the, not just the results they produced, but some of the performances as well. And a lot of people had Swansea as kind of the underdog qualifiers for the playoffs and things like that. But I think Norwich fans have seen also that when you do a lot of recruitment in one window, it doesn't necessarily all pay off at once because of often that rate of change. So, what impact has that had? And do you think it's a problem with recruitment, kind of the results in the last few weeks as well, or is that kind of a separate issue for you?
I don't necessarily think the recruitment's to blame. We were in a situation where we kind of had to bring those players in. It wasn't like we sold players to then replace them. We just had the gaps from a lack of depth anyway that we probably got away with for too long, where certain positions we had one option. And luckily there was no injury in that area that we got away with it, but we probably shouldn't have for as long as we have. Then a bunch of loans that ended, a couple of players that moved on because of old age and retirement. So we didn't really sell anyone as such. Not of note anyway, regarding like a loss to the first team. And we've just brought in quality and depth. So every position now has 2 players that I'd feel comfortable starting, which is the first time I think I can say that since we've been relegated. And that's where a lot of the positivity came from. And I'll be honest, most of them have actually looked all right this season. Some of them, I think there's a bit of criticism with certain players over the last couple of games where their form has perhaps dipped off, but then I'm reluctant to kind of pin it on the players when, for me, I think they're doing the job that's asked of them and the system's the problem.
Yeah.
And some of their roles are a bit quiet, right? And then when we don't win and we lose in, people start asking questions because they're quiet. But then
Yeah.
when you're winning and you're not conceding, maybe that quiet role is the reason why you're not conceding. It's one of those things. And I'm not saying that some of the players can't do more, and it isn't areas where we could do better and have end product. But also, when it comes to like the goals that we've scored already this season, we've been so clinical.
Yeah.
Where we've created like a chance that gets put away in a way that probably is a high XG chance, but we score from it, and then we've got the goal, and we don't tend to try and get the second goal, which is what's cost us a lot of points early season. But then, like last night, for example, where we had a red card early and we did nothing for 90 minutes, and we had one chance right at the end of the game, which it was a bit of a tap in. If the player got on the end of this cross, it was in the net, and he slid in, and it just bounced above his leg. One of those where you really should have put it in the back of the net. It was Zan Fopotnik, but he's been so clinical already this season with the chances that he has scored.
Yeah.
I find it hard to then criticise the fact that he's had one chance and he's missed it in this game, but then in 5 other games he's had one chance and scored on all of them. You can't rely on that sort of clinicalness on like a ratio of scoring every single one of them. You need to be creating more chances because you will miss some of them. It's going to happen. We're in the Championship for a start. They're not Premier League top level players.
Yeah.
And obviously we're at a position now where that's starting to perhaps cost us results because you can't rely on that, unfortunately, and that's what we probably have been. And whereas when earlier in the season it was okay, it was fine to rely on it knowing that perhaps we're going to build on that. Unfortunately, we haven't built on it and it's gone the other way. So that's where the issues are. But I don't necessarily think it's the recruitment or the amount of change. I don't think the players individually have massively underperformed. I just think, and it's been an issue at Swansea for some time under a few managers, and they haven't played in that sort of middle central attacking areas. A few managers haven't done it. Russell Martin didn't do it. Luke Williams didn't do it. And I just think that whatever trends are in football at the moment, is something that we are missing, and we have been for some time. And getting our striker into games, Connor was talking about Josh Sargent being starved of service, but that's what we're seeing. So, like year after year, we can't get our striker into the game. We can't get touches in the box. Any goal they score, you look at that like, oh, what a finish. But you shouldn't be saying that for every goal you score. You should have some tap-ins, some ones that are like well worked, but like, they haven't had to like defy the odds to put it in the back of the net. So that's just the current situation. So
on that theme of strikers and getting them in the right positions, you won't be surprised to be asked about Adamida going into this weekend's game. Obviously left Norwich I think 18 months ago now to go to Celtic, and then quite quickly found himself back in the Championship with Swansea this summer. One of those bits of business, without double checking, I would assume one of the more expensive.
8 million, I think.
Yeah. So for those fees, obviously in the Championship, I think most fans would expect a lot. He's only scored 1 goal so far in the Championship for Swansea. I mean, you've kind of mentioned some of the reasons why that might not be his fault. But if you look at his performance overall, how's it been in a Swansea shirt?
His goal was a penalty. However, I think it's important to note that Zan Fopotnik, who I just mentioned, on just before we signed Ida, there was a lot of speculation about him leaving. It was very well documented we were in for a striker to like lead the line and solve our goal scoring problems. And that man ended up being Ida, but Vopotnik seemed to take that a bit to heart and decided to show that he could do that job. So, he went on a mad scoring run of like 5 goals in 5 games, or 6 and 6 if you include international and cup. And he's kept that position. So I think Ida started his first league game for us last night, I believe. And, he was given a bit of a difficult job after we went down to 10 men 30 minutes in. But he has a good game, to be honest. He wasn't dealt a good hand when it comes to scoring goals. But regarding the job that he did on the pitch, I think he probably was one of the better performances, even though he didn't really look like scoring. I think it's hard to judge him at this point. I don't think he's had the chances for me to give a proper opinion on him and his goal scoring and what I think he can offer us. From what I've seen, he looks quite clever with his positioning, and some of his runs are quite good. It's different from what we've got from our other options. So that might take a bit of getting used to, especially when we haven't got that creativity behind to sort of get the most out of him. But like, he scored 20 goals for Celtic last season in all competitions. There was a lot of fans that were underwhelmed by the signing and the cost of it. But 20 goals in a season is 20 goals, even if it's in all competitions like that. If he, I don't think necessarily he'll get there this season, but like, if you get any player replicating a 20-goal season in all competitions in the Championship, they're probably going for more than the 8 million that we signed them for these days. So you can't argue that the credentials were there, even if some of the Celtic fans were trying to say that he was quite poor for them last season. I'd take a poor striker that can score 20 goals, because if he has a good season, what's that? Do you know what I mean? So time will tell on him. I think, it's probably not been the most ideal start because of the issues I've just discussed and the form of Apotnik right on cue with him joining the club. But it's a long season. There's a lot of midweek games coming up in the next couple of months. We play in, like I said, we've got a cup game now next week. So the rotation is going to be important, and you'll definitely have the chance to show that he can leave his mark. And I do think he's got the quality to be able to do that.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he gets on. If we bring it round to this weekend, then I'm always interested to see what opposition fans make of a game against Norwich, because as I'm sure you had as a Swansea fan going back a few years, it seems like there's a bit of a time lag where for the first few years when a club comes down from the Premier League, all the opposition managers and fans and players are almost obliged to say, it's a good club and it's a big club at this level, and it's a tough game. It feels like probably some of the mystique is wearing off both of these clubs at this moment in time. Obviously, Norwich in the relegation zone, Swansea 16th. So how do you view a game at home against Norwich this weekend?
Well, I did think that you were going to probably have a better start to the season than you have, so I'm a bit surprised to see you where you are. But I think even when I look back to when we got promoted to the Premier League together back in, 2012? 2011. We were kind of in competition that season as well. You obviously ended up getting a promotion, automatics. I remember the game at home there where Barini scored that free kick, one of the highlights of the season for us. So I do still consider Norwich as a tough game, because I just think through the period since then, you've been up and down a few times. We've had a decent spell. It might have just been one spell, but we spent quite a lot of years in the Premier League. And now we might find ourselves in that position where we're not quite the ones knocking on the door. But probably a couple of better decisions, and we probably could be a little bit closer. So I don't think it's an easy game by any stretch. I think you've got to take advantage of the situation that's in front of you now. You're obviously on a tough start with a new manager that hasn't gone the way that is planned. On paper, we should have a bit more stability with Sheehan being there a bit longer and having some good results and form before. So for us, we need a response after the last couple of disappointments to shut up everything that I've just said and show that I'm wrong. That's what he needs to do Saturday. However, it can go the other way where I'm right. Norwich get their first win. Your season starts. And Alan Sheehan's the one that's looking a bit under pressure, So I think it's a big match for both of us because of those reasons, really. And pressure's on both managers, perhaps. But one of them could come out and really turn their season around, potentially.
Yeah, I think I'd agree with that. And although probably there's slightly more pressure on Manning at this moment, it feels like there probably is not great feeling around both.
I think results-wise, probably. But I obviously don't tap into the social media channels of Norwich. But the noise around Sheehan is not good at the moment, which isn't nice to see, to be honest. And I don't like falling into that trap sometimes. Like, I've been quite negative talking about him here. I wouldn't like to see that as the result, but also I need to see more from him, that he's going to address the problems that I've raised in the next couple of games, really. There's been a bandwagon out to get him since he got the job. They're just saying that they were right all along at the moment, and that's getting louder and louder and louder, So I don't know what the channels are saying about Manning for yourselves, because he's a newer manager, isn't he? And he's had So does he get that extra time, or are you ready to move on?
I think most Norwich fans that I speak to are probably ready for him to go. I think probably the feeling behind the scenes at the moment isn't, from everything we hear, it doesn't sound like they're really particularly close to that just yet. But certainly the Norwich fans are in that position, because, to be honest, the performances haven't been suggesting that the results will get much better either, and they have maybe improved a little bit, but not really quite to the levels where Norwich fans are encouraged and they can see what's coming. And I think this is pretty much the club's lowest ebb for a long time. I can't remember the last time they were in the relegation places in the Championship. I think it might be the first time outside of August since 2022 or something. It's been a long time since they were in that position. So I would say there's a lot of pressure on Manning. But without having seen that kind of the Swansea side of things, it's hard to judge where there's more pressure. But certainly it doesn't feel like it's going to be the highest quality game. So let's hope they can produce something decent. Just to finish off with, I'm going to get you to look into the crystal ball and give us a score prediction for this weekend.
It's a really hard one to predict. I think we need to get a win, but do I feel confident that we will? Not really. It's there. It's capable. I would expect the players need to respond. They did a terrible performance away at Southampton last weekend. Really, really rotten. I honestly, if I'm a Southampton fan in that game, I'm walking away from that so frustrated. Yeah. Not even because we kept them out and did a park the bus job, right? They missed absolute sitters. When you watch the highlights, you're like, yeah, okay, God was on our side tonight. And we just haven't conceded for whatever reason. But then you expect at home now, QPR. I know QPR are having a good season so far, but again, first shot on target, 90th minute. So it's just not good enough. I'm going to go 1-1, I think, which is what Connor said, to be honest. But I just can't. I just can't go either way at the moment. I don't feel comfortable that we've got the quality to go and see through a win at the moment. Yeah. I hope they prove me wrong. I hope it's just me being super deflated for saying that. But I do think in the past we've been quite vulnerable against teams that look down and out as well. We've we've been, there's a meme sometimes in the Swansea fan base, we're always that team that gets another team going when nothing else is getting them going, so I'm a bit cautious of that as well. As much as you've told me otherwise that I shouldn't be, I've heard it all before from so many other people on these sort of conversations, and I've come off the back of it after watching the game what were they on about? So I'm a bit cautious.
Yeah, I think there's a bit of a phrase among Norwich fans. They say "along come Norwich." It feels like Swansea are kind of maybe based on that description or in a similar position sometimes. And if 1-1 is good enough for you and Connor, I think I might say the same, because I said going into the week that Norwich would get 1 point from these two games against Derby and Swansea. Obviously didn't get any against Derby. So I think when you look at the two teams, it feels like Norwich can't go on losing games. At some point they're bound to eke out a relatively fortunate point at least. And it feels like with some of the struggles you've spoken about with Swansea, that 1-1 sounds relatively realistic. So I'll go along with you on that one. If there are anybody watching this video who wants to go and find any more of your content, Luke, where can they do that?
If you just type in Swans Cast, YouTube, or any of the podcasting platforms, all of our stuff is available there. And Twitter is probably our most active, or X is our most active social media platform, where if you want to discuss anything or whatever. But that's where our content goes anyway.
Nice one. Of course, we would recommend that. And if you're a Norwich fan, you can go to pinkham.com/subscribe and you'll get access to all of our content going into this weekend's game. Thanks very much for joining us, Luke. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. Thanks for coming on. And thanks, everyone, for watching. We'll see you for the next one, hopefully. Sorry, Luke, after a positive result at Swansea.
So good. I said the same to Connor.